Well, it looks like a lot of people have already discussed this, so I thought why not throw my hat into the ring and add my 2 cents and give a little bit of a breakdown of what I see happening in the future for Magic the Gathering when it comes to big box retailers like Troll and Toad that say they're not carrying Magic the Gathering anymore. They're not going to sell or buy Magic the Gathering anymore. In fact, they had these huge sales that they're running on their website trying to liquidate all of their Magic the Gathering. Now, I think there's a lot of reasons that led up to this, obviously, and some of it's the poor performance of recent sets like Commander Masters. That was a unbelievable failure. I think almost as bad as Magic 30th. The amount of stores that were selling it at less than distribution costs was astounding. Even my local game store, the one that I'm sponsored by, Face to Face Games, they even had a sale for about a week where they were selling it for 199 Canadian, which is almost half of what they actually were charging originally when the set first came out. And that's just one of many stores. So obviously the amount of stores that got screwed over by that, and I'm assuming Troll and Toad as well. And then you're obviously looking at the singles market, which is another huge factor. The fact that you are getting like 6 or 7 variations of each card becomes very difficult to keep up with. And obviously, if you're buying and selling cards, you want to make sure you're buying and selling the right versions. And they probably had a lot of complaints. And I do know that they were not the best when it comes to that. I do know that they did have a lot of complaints, but I mean, it's very difficult in today's day and age with Magic Gathering to try to keep up with everything. One thing that's also interesting is the fact that I always saw Troll and Toad as more of a Pokemon site. I'd never used it for Magic Gathering. I knew of its existence. I was aware of its long history with Magic Gathering, about 30 years. Pretty much almost as soon as Magic Gathering came out, just as the internet was started, the early is of the internet, that was one of the places where you could buy and sell Magic Gathering. It's one of the places you could buy lists to. And now they don't have a buy list anymore for Magic Gathering, which is incredible. So there is still a lot of big stores that will buy Magic the Gathering, but I feel like they're getting smaller and smaller by the weeks and months. It feels like we are in a very bearish period for Magic the Gathering. There's a lot of bearish indicators. That's just one of them. I actually think another one that not a lot of people have talked about is the fact that even the Professor now is doing deck reveals. And for the longest time, Wizard of the Coast and the Professor, they were kind of on opposite ends. Like, they wouldn't approach the Professor. They didn't like that he was very critical of their products. And I feel like now, in a state of desperation, they're even reaching out to some content creators and be like, please be positive at Magic the Gathering, because obviously there's a lot of negativity when it comes to YouTube and Magic the Gathering. A lot of the content creators, I'm not saying I'm not. I definitely say some negative things about Magic, but in general, if you're Wizard of the Coast, that's definitely adding a lot of negative and downward pressure on the game. If someone is discovering Magic the Gathering, one of the places that they do go to research it or find out more about it, is YouTube. And if there's not a lot of positive content, it doesn't really drive a lot of positivity towards the game as well. You have big creators like Rudy. Most of his videos are pretty bearish towards Magic now. For a reason. He is a massive buyer of Magic. He has a ton invested in Magic the Gathering, which is, obviously it's going to kind of rub you the wrong way when you see the market in a downward trajectory for the past 2 years, especially the vintage market, which is pretty much the only thing he does buy. He doesn't even really buy modern cards, and even he is very negative towards Magic the Gathering. In fact, I've noticed that whenever he talks about Pokémon, it's almost always positive, and when he talks about Magic, it's almost always negative. Now, I understand where he's coming from. I'm pretty bullish right now on Pokémon, if you want to use the word bullish. I think it has a great history. It's very old. It's one of the oldest trading card games, not quite as old as Magic the Gathering, but it also has a massive IP, and its IP is actually getting stronger and stronger. It's not being diluted in terms of crossing over with other brands. Like, they actually stay true to their brand, and I think there's a long future for Pokemon. I think Magic still has a future. I think it's going to go through a rough few years, and we'll see where it lands. But right now, just signs of the bearishness of Troll and Toad not buying Magic the Gathering cards, which is huge because that was a place people would sell to. While there's less and less places people can sell their cards to, while there's less buyers on the market for Magic Gathering, it's just going to put more and more downward pressure on the game and on the singles in general, and it's just going to maybe create a feedback loop. Some people call it the death spiral. That's where a company ends up raising prices, and then they lose more customers, but then the customers that they do have, they're like, well, there's still people buying, so why don't we raise it again, try to get those profits up, and they just keep going again and again. And there's companies out there that are private. They don't have any shareholders to, basically adhere to. Companies like Lego, I think that's a private company. You can't invest in that like on the stock market. So I guess the only way you can invest in it is actually through buying the product itself. And as far as I know, I think Pokémon is a private company as well, right? Or is it Nintendo? I know Nintendo bought it, but I don't know if Nintendo still owns the rights 100%. I think Pokémon is its own company. But either way, that's one thing that I will say. Any company that's owned and has a stock ticker that you can buy that's a publicly traded company, it's pretty bad because unfortunately, if you want to look at it as like a collectible, it will probably end up being diluted for more profits. And that's kind of where we're at right now with Hasbro. And unfortunately, until Hasbro leaves, until they sell the game, we could be in a very long downward market for quite some time, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of it comes down to just the management, and people just do not feel safe holding, especially old Magic cards that are worth a lot of money, unless you're playing them. But if you don't have time to play, you don't really want to just sit on all your binders of Magic cards while they just keep going down, because if you're not being able to play them and actually have time for them, then it doesn't feel good. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope there was like some insights that you actually were able to get from this video as I fumble through everything. But if you did enjoy the video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.